I'll never forget the shock of running into my husband at our best friend's baby shower. It seems Emily didn't know that John and I were married. But to think that John and Emily had a child together. Good for you too, looking so happy. Ah, I'm the only one left out of our happy trio. Emily, John, be happy no matter what. Emily nods with a big smile, and John gives an awkward nod. I know all too well. John is the type of guy who says, pregnancy isn't an illness, so don't be lazy, and he doesn't help with the pregnancy at all. I can't believe he cheated on me with our best friend, of all people. That's just unforgivable. I decided to make John lose everything. My name is Lisa, and I'm a hairdresser in a small town. It's where I was born and raised, not as flashy as the city, but a comfortable place to live. The sense of community is just right, and it's very cozy. John and I were high school classmates. Back then, Emily, John, and I were known as the inseparable trio in our circle, always together. Especially John and I, we were the class's official couple. Whenever someone asked, "Where's John now?" I could always tell them right away, and I'd often be teased, "You're gonna make a great wife someday." Emily, the other member of our trio, was always listening to foreign music or the radio with her earphones, dreaming of going abroad. She was one of the top students in our class. True to her goals, Emily went on to study at a university abroad, and after graduating, we only kept in touch through texts a few times a year. After graduation, I went to cosmetology school and became a hairdresser. Since my family owned a salon, I started working there. John attended a local university and then joined his family's business. Actually, their company sells beauty products like shampoo. It turns out, their business is sort of a business partner to my family's salon. That synergy was another reason why people teased us about our relationship. John is a quiet guy, not much of a talker, quite the opposite of me who's pretty chatty. But somehow, we clicked, and our relationship from high school continued, leading us to naturally get married without any formal proposal. We bought a house in the city and started our new life in a spacious home. After a while, I got pregnant. I was so happy to be carrying John's baby, and that night, I excitedly shared the news. "John, guess what? I'm pregnant." I was expecting John to be thrilled, but his reaction was underwhelming. "Oh, is that so? Aren't you happy?" John silently fiddled with his phone, searching for due dates and birth stories. "The baby's due next year, huh? Make sure you get your work wrapped up by then." "Is that all? What else is there?" "Well, nothing, but..." I was honestly disappointed by John's attitude. But I soon faced a situation I couldn't ignore. The first pregnancy was tougher than I imagined. I had been working full-time, but sudden health issues and doctor's visits made it difficult. Reluctantly, I decided to start my maternity leave earlier than usual to focus on my health. But John didn't consider my feelings at all. He searched the typical maternity leave period on his phone and confronted me with it. "Maternity leave is legally 6 weeks before birth, right? Aren't you taking it too early?" "My job is physically demanding, and everyone's health is different. Besides, my mom said she'd handle the salon." "Pregnancy isn't an illness, don't coddle yourself. If you're like this, I can't expect much from our kid." He said that, even though it's his child too. If my kid isn't smart, something's wrong. You need to put in the effort too. If you turn into a lazy housewife, I'll divorce you right away. You've been slacking on the housework lately, haven't you? The meals are mediocre, and the house is a mess. I can't keep up with everything. I'm limited in what I can eat right now. Can't you at least make your own meals? But John always relied on me for housework. I grew up helping with the family business, so I've been doing housework since I was a kid. However, John's mom was diligent and never had him do any chores, growing up without learning them. "It's the woman's job to take care of the house," was her frequent saying. While I admire her dedication, it left John clueless about even laundry. That was one of my secret frustrations. As I was pondering how to talk to John about this, I suddenly needed to use the bathroom. Only those who've been pregnant would understand, but I needed to go often during that time. Excuse me, I need the bathroom. Again? Are you sure you're not just old? When you're pregnant, you need to go more often. That's embarrassing. Lately, you're always complaining about your health, like living with a grandmother. John then started a long list of complaints. But I really needed to use the bathroom. Also, his remarks treating me like an elderly person under various pretexts were uncomfortable, and I wanted to leave the place immediately. I tried to leave, saying, I need to use the bathroom, but he snapped, I'm not done talking yet. Somehow, I endured his long talk and barely made it to the bathroom in time. I could hear him muttering, that's so uncool, behind me. When we first married, I was attracted to John's calm and unflappable nature, but since the pregnancy, it's been the opposite. He even compares me to various people online. That celebrity got back to work right after birth and looked perfect. You'll do the same, right? I don't know, don't compare me to such people. You're both human, just try it. Don't disappoint me too much. Apparently, John's expectations are ridiculously high. And he's all too willing to believe whatever he reads on the internet, regardless of its truth. Every time we meet, it leads to these kinds of conversations, creating a tense atmosphere between us. Around the same time I became pregnant, John started spending less time at home. Our arguments, like the one I just mentioned, were part of the reason, but he also began going out at night and on weekends, claiming it was for work. This was something new in our life together. He's the opposite of the involved dads that are often talked about these days. One night when John came home late, I gathered my courage and asked him, You've been busy with work lately, huh? I'm expanding our client base. It's none of your business. But John, have you been drinking? This is part of my job too. Stop nagging. John's voice was loud enough to be heard next door. I could smell alcohol on his breath. You never had to drink for work before. What's going on? That's something you wouldn't understand. Anyway, you. That's when John started his usual sarcasm. You just laze around at home while I work every day. It's not worth it. I'm not just lazing around. I'm pretty busy preparing for the birth. That's no excuse to neglect the housework. You hardly even put on makeup anymore, using the pregnancy as an excuse to let yourself go. That's harsh. I held back my tears and went to put John's bag on the shelf when something small fell to the floor with a clink. What's this? Wireless earbuds? I picked them up casually and looked at them closely. They were small earbuds, shaped like earrings. Adorned in a cute pink color, they had a design that seemed to appeal to women. Don't go through my bag. That's an invasion of privacy. But I always do this. Anyway, you don't usually use earbuds, John. If they're lost, shouldn't we return them? That's for me to worry about. You just focus on the housework. Why can't you even do that right? John's reaction was excessively intense, just for pointing out a lost item. As I tried to say more, I felt a dull impact on my stomach. John had kicked me. Don't forget you're being provided for. If you keep meddling, I'll have to rethink things. I couldn't believe what had just happened. After John stormed off to his room, I sat on the floor in shock, replaying the recent events in my mind. I couldn't see how I had done anything to deserve being kicked. I couldn't understand John's reaction. The next day, I went to the hospital to check on the baby, pretending I had fallen at home. As I couldn't admit to being kicked by my husband. Fortunately, the baby was fine, but the area where I was kicked was bruised and discolored. Then some good news came in. My best friend Emily had given birth. She had gone to university abroad and was working there, but it seemed she had returned to the States. I would have liked to take John with me to see her, keeping our trio together, but he was away on a business trip. So, I went to congratulate her alone. In the bright, sunlit hospital room, Emily lay in bed, looking relieved. When I entered, she managed to sit up to greet me. It's been a while. Congratulations on your baby. Thanks. Actually, I returned to the US about a year ago but couldn't get in touch, sorry. I'm glad the baby arrived safely. Emily looked more sophisticated than when she was a student, like she had truly grown up. Next to her pillow, I noticed earbuds identical to the ones I found in John's bag the other day. She seemed to notice my gaze. Oh, these? They're my favorite. I lost one a while back, but my boyfriend found it for me. Really? What's your husband like? We're not officially married yet. He's actually. Her words were interrupted by a knock on the door. To my surprise, John walked into the room. I was speechless with shock. You're surprised, right? Actually, I'm dating John now. Emily said, unaware that John and I were married. She was innocently smiling in front of me. Hey, welcome. It's been a long time. John said nonchalantly, heightening my confusion. A reunion of the old trio. After I came back to the US, I started seeing John again. We're planning to get married, but it's been hectic with all the paperwork. That's great. Actually, as you can see, I'm pregnant too. I said, feeling the urge to spill everything. But I calmed down a bit. I have a baby in my belly. I have to protect my baby and myself. I thought about the most effective way to handle this crisis. So, I decided to keep things calm. My husband is on a business trip right now. I really wanted to bring him along today. That's too bad. I wanted to meet your husband. It's a shame. But having a husband like yours, Emily, who accompanies you, is definitely better. My husband hardly helps at all. I secretly glared at John, who awkwardly looked away. You two seem happy. I'm the only one left out of our happy trio. Emily, John, be happy no matter what. Emily nodded with a big smile, and John nodded awkwardly. Here, this is a gift for the baby. I heard bibs are always useful, so I bought some. I even got matching ones for my baby. That's adorable, thanks. You must be excited for your baby too, Lisa. Once my baby is born, let's all go out together. At the mention of all of us, John's shoulders twitched. I pretended not to notice and kept smiling. Can we take a picture? Emily, hold the baby, and John, get close. I took a picture of Emily holding the baby with John beside her. I left the room with a forced smile. Once outside, I realized I was breathing heavily and my shoulders were heaving. From behind the door, I could hear Emily's excited voice and John's low responses. After leaving the hospital, I hurried home. And immediately contacted a real estate agent on my phone. Hello, I want to sell my house immediately. Yes, you can list it right now. I'll complete the paperwork quickly. And could you recommend a moving company? I arranged to sell the house and contracted a moving company recommended by the real estate agent. Next, I called John's family. Due to a sudden situation with John, I'll be sending his belongings over. There will be a lot, so don't be surprised. Yes, I decided to erase my life in that house as if it never existed. John said he would be on a business trip until tomorrow. He's probably planning to stay somewhere tonight. I wanted to send his things to his family's house immediately, but I didn't want to shock his mother. So, I just informed her. After finishing these arrangements, I noticed missed calls from John. He had been calling non-stop since I left the hospital. But I ignored them and slowly sipped my tea. Then a message came in. Let's talk, just the two of us. But what was there to discuss now? After he kicked me, I had grown wary of John. Now, that caution had turned into distrust, and honestly, I didn't even want to hear his voice. When I got home, I immediately started packing. I entered John's room and began filling boxes with his belongings. Luckily, it was the off-season for moving. So I could sign up for a plan where the movers helped with packing, making the shipping process smoother than expected. Now, all that was left was to send my stuff. When I called my parents, they rushed over, and the move was completed right away. In John's room, I found something. An unfinished divorce form. It seemed John planned to leave me for Emily. Thinking it was an opportunity, I filled in the rest of the divorce form and kept it with me. Just then, I got a call from my mother-in-law.
Lisa, I heard some luggage was coming, but I didn't expect this much. What happened?
Well, John has been cheating. Do you remember Emily from high school? It seems they've had a child together. I could sense my mother-in-law collapsing on the other side of the phone. I continued, feeling sorry for her. I'm sorry, but I have evidence. I'll send you a photo. I sent her the photo I took earlier in the hospital room, with Emily, her baby, and John.
I don't want to believe it, but it's true, isn't it?
I wish it weren't. But it's a fact. I'll be staying at my parents' house from tonight. She tried to contact John afterward but couldn't reach him. When she asked if I knew his whereabouts, I blurted out that we were no longer family. She seemed to understand my resolve from my response. That night, I went back to my parents' house and slept peacefully in my old room. The next morning, John called.
Hey! The house is empty and there's a for sale sign up. What's this about?
Don't you get it? That's no longer your home. For now, your stuff is at your parents'. I'm changing the locks tomorrow, so don't bother coming back.
What have you done? Let's talk this over.
Can't help it, then. How about this afternoon at your parents'? I'll let your mom know. I cut the call short and started preparing to go out. That afternoon, everyone gathered at John's family home. His parents, my parents, me, and John. His mother looked pale. But she bravely started the conversation.
John, is it true you're having an affair with your friend Emily?
An affair? No, Mom. We just started dating late.
I'm not interested in your excuses. And you even have a child together?
It turns out we're quite compatible. Suddenly, his mother punched him.
How could you do this? Lisa is pregnant too. How can you face her?
I had never seen his typically calm and graceful mother like this before. Blood trickled from John's nose. But he seemed unaware. Oh, what's that for? It's natural for a child to come from a loving relationship.
I can't believe you'd say that.
I intervened in their argument. First of all, how did you end up with Emily? I ran into her at the station while on sales rounds. She'd just returned to the US and started a new job. She had charms you didn't. That's no reason to start dating. I've always liked Emily since high school. You were just the convenient option. I was speechless at his selfish reasoning. Reconnecting with Emily, I realized she didn't think badly of me. There's no reason to stop us now. John had hidden our marriage from Emily. He thought about divorcing when Emily got pregnant. But then I got pregnant too. He lacked the courage to divorce or the resolve to remarry, so things dragged on.
How can you be so selfish? Aren't you ashamed of juggling two women?
Emily and Lisa are completely different. Reuniting with Emily made me realize I was unsatisfied with Lisa. I planned to remarry Emily and step up as a man.
Ridiculous. I'm disappointed you're my son.
John's mother's anger knew no bounds.
If that's how you feel, we're cutting off our ties as a family. You're fired from the company too. From now on, you'll have to fend for yourself.
I don't care. But I had my doubts. John had only ever worked in our small family-run company. Could he really handle a different job?
You don't understand a thing. The only reason you've been able to work until now is because of Lisa's beauty salon.
Huh? Lisa's salon? That small-town shop didn't have much to do with my performance.
It's because Lisa's shop promoted our products that you could barely make any sales. You ungrateful man.
My parents, who had been silent during the exchange, declared that they would no longer do business with John's company. No problem. I'll start my own business. I'm still young, and I can learn anything. Emily will return to work soon after giving birth, so our new life will be secure. I muttered really into my phone. Suddenly, Emily's voice boomed out, "Are you stupid?" I had been on a video call with Emily from the start of the discussion.
If I had known you were married to Lisa, I would never have dated you. I feel like I've betrayed Lisa too. And your lack of foresight in this conversation is appalling. Frankly, you have no talent as a businessman. Why is Emily? I got in touch with Lisa and decided to join the discussion. I'm glad I did. I never want to see you again.
Wait, don't leave me, John pleaded.
Why should I stay with a man as awful as you? I'll raise the baby myself, so don't show your face again. Oh, and I'll be expecting child support.
Realizing he had no chance with Emily, John turned to me with a pleading look.
Lisa, I was wrong. Let's forget the past and raise our child together. I refuse to continue a marriage with such a scumbag.
How could I forget your horrible treatment? I recalled the shock of seeing John in Emily's hospital room.
Don't be stubborn. Your kindness is your best trait,
John said, unable to give up, staring at me intently. His face, with dried blood from his nose, looked pathetic. I slowly shook my head.
Just because things didn't work out with Emily doesn't mean you can come back to me. But you'll struggle raising the child alone. What are you going to do? I have a profession, and I'm better off without a father like you. I'm not foolish enough to cling to a useless man.
I had already discussed it with my parents, and they promised to support me fully. Thanks to our connections in customer service, we knew a good law firm too. I presented John with the divorce papers I found in his drawer.
As you can see, the divorce papers are ready. All that's left is to submit them to the office. Let's quickly settle the alimony and child support. Wait, I have to pay both you and Emily. Of course. You're still legally my husband. But don't you dare neglect Emily's needs either. The lawyer is ready.
John buried his head in his hands. Just then, I felt an unfamiliar pain in my belly.
Ouch, it hurts.
I realized I was going into labor at that very moment. The meeting was immediately dissolved, and my parents rushed me to the nearest hospital. Everything happened so fast after that. Exhausted from the discussion and childbirth, I collapsed into bed at the hospital and slept soundly. Even when the nurses woke me up occasionally, I barely remember having my eyes open. Eventually, I was discharged and returned home with my baby, where I caught up with my parents. My mother, a beautician, had discreetly spread the word about John. Many of our clients are housewives. Just a few words from my mother grew into a full-fledged rumor that quickly spread throughout the town. Meanwhile, John tried to start an online sales company, something he always liked. He had always taken personal connections lightly and sought refuge in the internet. However, he couldn't match the power of word of mouth. Struggling to find a bank to finance him due to the rumors, his business idea failed in the early stages. He got a harsh lesson from the very small-town network he had once scorned. There was another thing that hit John hard. The video call with Emily. She had recorded the entire discussion using another camera, edited John's selfish behavior into a short video, and spread it among our high school classmates. As a result, John lost all his friends and anyone who might have helped him. He was left to solve everything alone. Kicked out of his family home, he ended up sleeping at motels, using his savings to look for a new house and job. Being unemployed and without a fixed address, it was tough for him to find either. Eventually, he found it too difficult to stay in town and moved far away. John finally found a day labor job and struggled with the unfamiliar physical work. But I couldn't let him off the hook. I had warned him that if he ever missed a child support payment, I would press charges for the time he kicked my belly. I had taken photos of my injuries and saved the hospital records, which would serve as significant evidence. I filed for divorce and became a single mother almost simultaneously with giving birth. But I wasn't alone. Emily and I decided to live together in a spacious apartment. It's a 4-person household now, me, Emily, and our babies. The children get along like siblings. Emily and I, being best friends, have only grown closer since John left. We take turns looking after each other's babies, which allows us to work and have some personal time too. We're planning to make our park debut together once the kids are a bit bigger. For now, I'm enjoying this comfortable life.